Namaskar. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Ansuman Chakrabarti. I am once again back with my Facebook Live as well as the other social media based classes of Archana Institute of Technical Education and Research pertaining to the subject Fundamentals of Geology and Geomorphology. In this class today we will basically discuss the different concepts about the sedimentary rocks and the concept about sediments, how these particular kind of rocks are being formed, as well as the different transportational and depositional environment that we will basically be talking about. So, in the just very first, what are these sedimentary rocks? Sedimentary rocks are basically composed of the sediment of all solid particles which are usually derived by the mechanical and chemical weathering, as well as the minerals which are precipitated from solution by chemical or biochemical process. So, as the definition goes on, sedimentary rocks are basically those rocks which are basically formed by the process of erosion and deposition of the pre-existing rocks by the different agents of erosion or deposition, like that of say it may be weathering, say it may be mass bursting, or say it may be of the other forms as to be explained. Now here you can see in the screen there is a diagram. This diagram is showing that we are having an area that is overlain by the pre-existing rocks. Now these pre-existing rocks are basically being worked upon by the different agents of erosion and weathering, and they are gradually fragmented in forms of sediments like that of the clay, sand, silt, gravel, or boulders, etc., etc. And finally these unassorted sediments are being transported down by the agents of transportation like moving water, or it may be ice, or it may be wind, etc. And finally which gets deposited in a particular region to form or give origin to this kind of rocks, as I have mentioned, that is basically the sedimentary rocks. Now, as I have already told you that this particular kind of rocks are being formed by the agents of the erosion and deposition, as well as there may be some kind of chemical processes also. So this kind of rocks can basically be categorized into three basic types. One is the mechanically formed or physically formed rocks, or the clastic sedimentary rocks. One may be the chemically formed sedimentary rocks through the process of the solution or some other things are concerned, or evaporation basically. And other may be the rocks which are formed as a result of the different biological parameters or agents. Now, the sediments that basically constitute this kind of sedimentary rocks can be classified to be as the gravel, sand, silt, clay, etc. Among them, the clay and silt basically consist of the mud. And in terms of this particular mud and in terms of its size, if the size of the grain is less than 1/256, then we used to consider millimeter, 1/256 millimeter, then we used to consider it as a clay fragment or clay particle. Now if the size ranges from 1/256 to 1/16 millimeter, then we will basically regard it as the silt particle. Again, if the size ranges between 1 millimeter to that of 1/16 millimeter to that of the 2 millimeter, then we will regard it to be as the sand particle. And if the size exceeds 2 millimeter, then we will call it as gravel. So gravel, in terms of the grain size or in terms of the size of the fragments, it is the most biggest component, while clay is the most smaller fragment or smaller particle. Now, why should we study these sedimentary rocks? Why it is essential to study these sedimentary rocks? Because there are also igneous rocks, there may be metamorphic rocks. So why we should study this particular theme or particular chapter? It is basically because almost 75% of the Earth's surface area is being basically composed or basically compiled of this kind of sedimentary rocks. So, these particular rocks are such rocks which are existent over the continents in abundant quantity as well as over the oceanic floors. This is point number one. Secondly, there has been silicizer which may be taken as gems. It has got some value in its own. So some of the sedimentary rocks are itself be regarded to be as the gemstone. Again, it is also essential to know how the life has evolved on the earth. And by tracing the remnants of the sedimentary rocks, that is the fossils and other things are concerned, we can easily get an idea, or we can easily procure some information about the evolution of the life on the earth's surface. And finally, the features which are basically preserved in the sedimentary rocks conditions at the time when this sediment was originally deposited. So, these sedimentary rocks are especially important for deciphering the Earth's history. So, apart from that, now we can define, or it is essential also to define the sediment first, rather than going into the deep into the classification of this kind of rocks and other things are concerned. Sediments are basically the smallest particles or smallest fragments which are basically derived by physical or chemical weathering of the Earth's crust, that is the surface of the Earth, materials that are laying on the surface of the Earth in form of the previous existing rocks or other things are concerned, which are subsequently transported by the wind, water or ice to form sedimentary rocks. So after sediments, we used to often hear a particular term as talus. Now what are these talus? Talus are basically larger rock fragments, and these are basically formed as a result of weathering of the mountainous regions. And some examples of talus may be given just in the form. Suppose someone is traveling from Rishikesh to Haridwar, or if someone travels along the upper course of the river, then they will come across large boulders or rock fragments along the course of the river. So those type of rock fragments are basically regarded to be as the talus. Now, how these particular kind of sediments used to get transported as well as deposited? First of all, let's take the context of transportation. The sediments are basically transported by the means of this moving water, which is one of the most major agent. It may be wind, it may be ice, etc. Now, ice is basically a solidified form, or it is a solid matter, and therefore it can carry the particle size of any size. But wind basically transports sand, and the resultant landforms are also known as aeolian landforms. And apart from the sand, if something is much more finer in comparison to that of the sand, it has got some smaller grain size or smaller particle size, that also it can carry. While the most prolific transportation agent is the running water. Now, the larger the size of the particle, the more vigorous is the current that is required for the transportation of these particles or sediments. And whether transported by water or wind or ice, or this particular sediment eventually accumulates over a geographical space or area which is basically regarded to be as the depositional environment. Now after this depositional environment, we will just take the note of this the other aspects of this particular matter, that is abrasion. Now what does the abrasion do? Abrasion basically reduces the size of the particle. It reduces the particle size and smoothens the sharp corners, and this particular process is basically regarded to be as the process of rounding. And transport and depositional process basically influence the sorting, which refers to the variety of the particle size present in the sediment or in the sedimentary rock. Now, sorting and rounding provide information that can help to decipher the history of these sedimentary deposits, basically. Important factors of depositional environments. I will just name up the factors one by one. The first and foremost example is type of the transporting agent. That is, it may be water, it may be ice, it may be wind, etc. Secondly, it may be the flow characteristics of the depositing fluid. That is the velocity or variation of the velocity. Third, it is size, shape and depth of the body of water and circulation of water. After that, it may be the geochemical parameters like that of the TPO content, that is potassium, oxygen, etc., oxides content and other things are concerned, or it may be the pH. After that, it may be the types and abundances of the organisms that are present, and finally the types and composition of the sediments which is entering into the environment. So these are basically the factors. So just take a small look into the as we have already told, we are already being told that moving water is one of the most important agent of transportation. So what kind of sediments are basically can be generated by this particular moving water? It basically can generate up sediments of three categories. It may be of large size particles, and which may be of irregular shape, and it may consist of a variety of minerals, including some that come from the weather very easily. It may be of medium sized particles like that of comparatively rounded structure which has got, and it usually contains of fewer minerals in comparison to that of the large grain particles or large sized particles. And finally, the stream deposit can also generate small sized particles also, and these are basically rounded structures. So these particles have basically got rounded structure, and it used to consist of plenty of minerals or a number of minerals that resist weathering. A very good example can be given for these smaller particles or smallest elements in form of the quartz. It is a very good example. Now, after the stream sediments, the sediments that are basically being transported or deposited in this to form this kind of rocks can be categorized as into certain categories as very poorly sorted, moderately sorted, well sorted, and very well sorted. Again, in terms of the structure, in terms of the particular shape, it may be angular sediment, it may be rounded sediment, it may be this irregular form, irregular sediment, and several other parts are concerned, or subdivisions are concerned. So sediment has got its own subdivision too, based upon how it is forming of different types of rocks or different types of landforms. Now, after the transportation, let's take a look into the deposition of different types of sediments. Sediments are basically deposited in a variety of environment like that of a continental environment. It may be a marine environment. It may be of a transitional environment. Now, physical, chemical and biological processes which are operating in this depositional environment used to impart distinctive characteristics for the accumulation of sediment. So this is an important point that we should have to keep in mind, that the physical, biological or the chemical processes which are operating in the depositional environment used to impart some distinctive characteristics to the accumulating sediment. And hence we may have different types of rocks based upon its different characteristics, its different pH content, its different hardness, alkalinity, etc., parameters are concerned. So let's go, before going into the details, much more details, let's take a look, or let's have some idea about some of the basic terminologies which are associated in this particular lecture, or which will be included in this particular lecture as, first of all, lithification. Now, what does lithification means? Lithification involves compaction as well as cementation, converting the sediments into sedimentary rocks. So that is lithification. Now, after lithification, the second one is compaction. Compaction is basically driven by the weight of a sediment that is overlying a deeper layer. It used to reduce the volume of a deposit as particles pack more closely and more pore spaces are usually being reduced. After the compaction, we can speak about the one particle to another by chemical process, and it used to reduce up the pore space. Some of the very common cements include quartz, calcite, hematite. These are some examples of very common cements. Now after that, lithification. Lithification of gravel, sand or mud, it basically requires compaction as well as the cementation. But compaction alone is sufficient to lithify the mud content or to lithify the mud particles basically. Now after that, this is a particular diagram that is showing the mechanism of lithification of the sediment, which you can see over here how the things are getting lithified and all. Now after that, let's come to the context of the types of sedimentary rocks. As I have already mentioned, sedimentary rocks can broadly be classified under three broad heads. First one may be clastic sedimentary rock. The next one may be the chemically formed sedimentary rocks. The third one may be the biogenic sedimentary rocks. Now what are these clastic sedimentary rocks? Clastic sedimentary rocks are basically being formed by the mechanical or physical process, that is by breaking up of the other rocks, and it may be classified on the basis of its particle. For example, the sandstone. Closer to the source, the size of the grains will be larger, and far away from the source, automatically it will be smaller. After that, the chemically formed sedimentary rocks are formed in form of precipitation of minerals from different types of these chemical processes, as for example solution. And just to cite you with an example, limestone can be formed in this particular way from where the calcium carbonate or the halite is basically formed from drying up of the island sea. And finally, the biogenic sedimentary rocks are basically produced directly from the biological activity. It may be exemplified as coal, chalk or chert, etc. So these are three basic kinds of the sedimentary rocks which I told you. First one is the clastic sedimentary rocks, second one is the chemically formed sedimentary rocks, and third one is that of the biologically formed sedimentary rocks. So now let's go into the depth. First of all, detrital or the clastic sedimentary rocks. The detrital sedimentary rocks are basically being formed of solid particles such as sand and gravel, which are basically derived by weathering. Now this kind of rocks can be classified by their size and of the constituent particles. I am mentioning the size of the particles as well as name of the rock and description. If the gravel is more than 2 millimeter, it will be basically rounded in shape, that is the gravel will basically be rounded in shape, and the type of rock will be conglomerate. After that, if it is sand and size of the particle is 1/6 to 2 millimeter, it is basically consists of quartz, and the name of the rock will be quartz sandstone. Now if less than 25% of feldspar it contains, and basically the material is sand with the particular grain size 1/6 to around 2 millimeter, it will be arkose. The name of the resultant rock will be arkose. Now if it is silt and size of the particle is 1/6 to that of the 1/16, and if it is basically a very fine to be as the siltstone. And similarly, if it is clay and less than 1/256 and it is basically a clay fragment, then we will regard this particular rock to be as the clay stone. Or collectively, these particular categories may also be regarded to be as the mudstone as considered. That is basically the siltstone and clay stone can be categorized to be as the mudstone too. Now clastic sedimentary rocks, some examples if I want to give you, first of all I can mention about the conglomerate. I can also mention about the breccia. Just as in this screen you can see here, this is the conglomerate while this one is the breccia. Now this is another example, quartz sandstone as I just mentioned. You can see it is basically, it has this kind of structure, some quartz evidences, and these are the quartz evidences, and this is basically the clay sandstone structure or type. After that, mudstone, or what I have discussed, that the claystone and siltstone basically combines to form the mudstone. So this is a very classic example, as I can exemplify over the laptop. This is basically the combination of the silt and clay, as I have mentioned, and it is an example may be given as shell. Shell is a fissile, particular of fissile rock, that is, it consists of mudstone as well as claystone, and these are very common types of rock and are usually formed by deposition in white water environment. So this is an important characteristic of this kind of, the shell or the mudstone is considered. It requires white water, but the water is not turbulent. So after the clastic sedimentary rocks, next come to the chemically formed sedimentary rocks. Chemically formed sedimentary rocks are formed of ions that are taken into solution by chemical weathering of the parent material. Many have crystalline texture due to the interlocking of mineral grains. These rocks can be classified based upon their mineral composition. I am just, as I have given in case of the clastic, here also I am giving the composition as well as the respective rock name. If it is calcite, that is CaCO3, then we can have limestone. Again, if it is dolomite, that is CaMgCO3, then we can have the dolostone. After that, if it is gypsum, that is CaSO4 2H2O, then we will have rock gypsum. Again, if we are having halite, that is NaCl, then we will be basically having rock salt. Now, this is a classic example how this dolostone is being formed. You can see the water is getting evaporated, and gradually this particular materials are getting deposited in successive beds in a marine environment, as it is exemplified over this particular diagram. Now, this is a chemically formed sedimentary rock salt, as I told you. If we are considering parts of Gujarat in India, or if we are considering this Michigan, Ohio, New York or Gulf Coast region in the United States of America, there we can have very vast deposits of this kind of rock salt, or the this gypsum, which we used to mean this particular rock. Now, this is a evaporite formation, how these particular rocks are being formed. Streams or rivers are getting evaporated, or in the desertic environments. Finally, this leads to the precipitation of the salt. Finally, the formation of this particular kind of rock structures, that is the sedimentary rock structure of the gypsum. Diagrammatic representation of the existence of salt deposits in different subsurface evaporites condition. Now, biochemical sedimentary rocks. Biochemical sedimentary rocks are basically formed of ions that are taken into solution by chemical weathering of parent material, as are exemplified to be as the chemically formed sedimentary rocks. Now, organisms which aid in the precipitation of biochemical sedimentary rocks may be, for example, the different types of microorganisms that are existent in the environment, that is the depositional environment or the transportational environment, etc., etc. It may be. Just to cite you with an example, if it is calcite or shells, in the presence of shells, then we may have the limestone and other things, other rocks are concerned. Now, after the particular formation or the type of these biochemical sedimentary rocks, I want to mention a particular thing, that limestone is also basically derived from the biochemical process, and it is a very common process, that is how we are getting the limestone from that of the calcium carbonate or something like that. And there may be the other kinds of examples like coquina and some other types of rocks also. And here you can see the diagrammatic representation of the limestone structures basically given or represented over here. Now this is a diagram that shows how the ooliths are formed. Ooliths is also a particular type of this biochemically formed sedimentary rock. Here you can see in this particular diagram this entire process of formation. After that it is microfossils. It is also a particular type of sedimentary rock that is basically being formed by the process of this biochemical process also. Some other examples like maybe given in form of a chert, CHERT. Chert is a particular type of biochemically formed sedimentary rock. Again, coal may be an example, classic example of biochemically formed sedimentary rock. Now, formation of sedimentary faces, that is also an important concept. What are sedimentary faces? Sedimentary faces are basically the bodies of sediment or sedimentary rock which contains distinct chemical, physical as well as the biological attributes which are imparted by their environments of deposition. So, if we have to define the sedimentary faces are basically the bodies of sediment or sedimentary rock containing distinct chemical, physical and biological attributes which are imparted by their environments of deposition. So, sedimentary faces may be classified into certain groups or certain heads, as in the marine coastal environment, for example, several faces accumulate simultaneously on various areas of the seafloor, and each area is basically being characterized by a distinct set of environmental conditions which used to influence this type of sediments. This is first characteristics. The second one may be the stacking arrangement. The stacking arrangement of sedimentary rocks basically records lateral relationships between the different faces and environments at the time of sediment deposition. Now the third one is in the coastal areas, the stacking of sediment layers deposited in laterally adjacent environments results from the movement of the shoreline with relative changes in the sea level. So that is the third important characteristics of sedimentary faces. Now after sedimentary faces, let's come to the concept of marine triangulation. As shoreline moves, depositional environments and sediments accumulating in them follows. A landward shift in the shorelines give rise to a marine translation, and as the facies shift in landward with the shoreline, nearshore sediments are basically stacked atop those of the nearshore. Now transgression produces a distinctive vertical arrangement of facies with offshores deposits atop the stack. Now this is the diagrammatic representation which is given here that shows the entire process of marine transgression, and sometimes it may also come as a short note also of 3 marks in your paper in this respective category. Now finally after that, each and every sedimentary rock has got certain stories in itself. The sedimentary rocks contains clues that can be used for interpreting deposits' depositional history. That is a very important aspect. Reconstructing the depositional environment of a deposit is of practical importance, because depositional environment of the sedimentary rocks provides us with an insight regarding the previous days when the rocks are in the process of formation. That what has been the type of the materials that constituted the rock, or how has been the environment in which the rocks these materials have got deposited to form this kind of sedimentary rocks. After that, the textual characteristics like rounding and sorting etc. are clues to the depositional environments. For example, if it is a desert sand dune, then it will be very well sorted and well rounded also. But however, if it is a glacier, then it will be an unassorted structure. So after that, the sedimentary structures and fossils are also helpful in interpreting the type of deposition or the depositionary history that we can also derive out from it. Now sedimentary structures are basically the features that are formed by physical and biological processes, and this kind of depositional structures or sedimentary structures are basically being formed by the biological processes at the time of or shortly after the deposition. Now strata beds are basically the layers in which the different colors or different types of materials used to get segregated out in form of different color, texture and composition to form the rock layers. And finally, cross bedding is a particular term which used to refer to the inclined layers within a particular given bed, and basically these are formed by the action of the wind or water. This particular feature slopes downward in the flow direction of the flow respectively. And finally, in terms of, if we are speaking about the bedding may be of three types. One may be a parallel bedding, secondly it may be a cross bedding, and third it may be a graded bedding. Just to show me with an example, just you see over here, it is a pre-flood evidence, and it results in the formation of a floodplain. So this particular floodplain formation is an example of a parallel bedding, which we should have to keep in mind. And after that, during the flood stage, what used to happen is that we are basically having the graded bedding over here in certain cases, and after the post flood we are having the deposition of materials in successive layers one by one. That is a very example of graded bedding in itself. Now this is a diagram of a cross bedding where you can see it is the wind is under operation, and this particular wind is leading to the formation of this cross beds in comparison to that of the parallel bases. Now this is an example of graded bedding. Now the definition of graded bedding goes as an upward decrease in grain size within an individual bed. It is often found in the deposits of turbidity currents, high density submarine flows. As the turbidity current slows, larger particles are deposited first, and progressively smaller ones are deposited as flows continues to weaken. So this is the particular diagrammatic representation of graded bedding. Schematic diagram to explain this particular graded bedding of the sediment. Now after this graded bedding, let's come to the context of ripple marks. These ripple marks are basically small ridges, and these are separated by intervening troughs formed on the sand deposits, as well as often preserved in the coals or in the rocks that forms this particular kind of deposits. Now current ripple marks have asymmetric cross structures and record of flow in one direction, as in the case of stream, while waveform ripple marks have symmetric cross sections generated by the back and forth motion of the waves basically. So these are the diagrammatic representation of this. This is for the current ripple, and this one is for the waveform ripple, or for the this asymmetric ripple. Asymmetric and symmetric ripple both are represented over here. This is a schematic diagram of asymmetric and symmetric ripples. And finally, the mud cracks. Mud cracks are basically the shrinkage cracks that forms the polygonal patterns of intersecting fractures. These are the mud cracks, and these are basically formed when the clay-rich sediment in a particular kind of material dries up. Now mud cracks are basically preserved in sedimentary rocks, and it indicates that the depositional environment was one where periodic drying occurred, such as on the river floodplain, or on a lake shore, or on a tidal flat. And finally, after that, this is a schematic diagram showing the mud cracks, how it is happening, how it is gradually getting intensified by layer, as you can see over here. And after that, what are the fossils? Fossils are basically remnants of the biological materials, that is of the creatures or the plant parts, which are stored or preserved in a particular layer during the process of the formation of the rock. Suppose if the deposition has been taking place in a forest-led environment, and the forest has got destroyed by some kind of flood or any other natural hazard, then over a particular bed of sediments, this particular leaves or these particular tree structures are getting deposited, and which are overlain by other materials. And in the gradual due course of time, owing to the pressure of the overlying layers, as well as heat of the interior, and several other activities or phenomena, they have got solidified. Now what will happen? These rocks will maintain the imprint of this particular biological structure, and this kind of structures are regarded to be as the fossils. And this particular kind of fossils used to help us in identifying that in what type of environment this deposition has taken place. Number one. Secondly, in what is the age of that particular rock. That suppose if any rock has got an evidence of a dinosaur, then we can easily say that this particular rock started its deposition as well as the rock formation process started since the Jurassic period. It is this kind of aspect basically. And these are some classic example of different kind of fossils where you can see snail as well as different types of other marine aquatic organisms which are stored up or which are being preserved in the different rock structures of sedimentary origin. This is another example. And finally, I think it will be an incomplete lecture if I don't say something about the depositional environment. Basically, the texture, sedimentary structures and fossils are especially important for interpreting the depositional environment. Now, interpretations are basically based upon the concept of uniformitarianism, which assumes that crossbeds or mud cracks, etc., are basically formed in the past by the same process and under the same conditions that they are doing as today. Now, this I am giving here a diagram of a Navajo SST. This has got structure similar to that of those are found in the modern period or modern day sand dunes. And are basically interpreted to have formed in a similar manner. Environments may be classified to be as the continental environment, continental depositional environment, where it may be pluvial, like alluvial fan, braided stream, meandering stream, etc. It may be based on a desert environment. It may be based on a glacier environment. It may be based on a deltaic environment, like deltaic plain, delta fault, after that prodrella, etc., etc. It may be of marginal marine like beach, lagoon, tidal flat, neritic like continental shelf or the oceanic ridge or the oceanic reef, etc. Now marine, just to cite an example, the oceanic, that is the continental slope. All these are different kinds of these depositional environments. Finally, I would like to end up with the resources that are usually available in sedimentary rocks. The sand and gravel, as all of us know, that these are used for the building and road construction. Limestone is used in the manufacture of cement. All of us know that. Gypsum is used for manufacturing the wallboard. Now, phosphate-bearing sedimentary rocks are used for fertilizers. Quartz sand is basically used for manufacturing glass. Now, carnotite, which is a uranium-bearing mineral, and which are mined to fuel up the nuclear reactors. Now, it is basically being found to remain associated with plant remains in sandstones, and these are basically formed in ancient stream channels. Now, uranium. I think all of you are very well known about the uranium. This kind of uranium are easily oxidized, and this can be easily dissolved in groundwater too. And these are having a broad amount of importance in terms of this industry and power industries and other things are concerned. Finally, hematite and magnetite are basically iron ore minerals, and they are found in chemically formed sedimentary rocks, which are known as BIFs, BIFS. Now, bauxite, it is a ore of aluminium, all of us know. After that, the pleasure deposits as gold, tin, diamonds, etc. Now, fossil fuels like that of the coal, oil, natural gas, these are driving the world today. If there has been no coal, there would not have been any source of thermal energy. If there has been no oil, then we may not have any kind of transportation system as we are seeing today or as we are having today. And these are some examples of formation of coal in the swampy regions. This particular diagram is showing how the coal is being formed. The entire process is explained over here. Now, petroleums and hydrocarbons similarly, the process of formation is being shown in this particular diagrams, as you can see, and you can refer also for your further studies. So, and with this, I would like to just let you know that this particular kind of rock is one of the most abundantly found rock over the surface of the earth. That is, sedimentary rock are the most abundantly found rocks over the surface of earth, and maximum portion of the Earth's surface areas, or maximum content if we are speaking about content of the Indian subcontinent, if we are speaking about, except for the Deccan Trap region is concerned, or for the Himalayan, even major portion of the Himalayan orogeny also has got evidences of these sedimentary occurrences. And these rocks are one of the most useful rock in terms of its economic importance and value. And finally, this kind of rocks can be classified into three broad types based upon its mode of formation, that is the clastic sedimentary rock or detrital sedimentary rock. Secondly, the organically formed sedimentary rock and biochemically formed sedimentary rock. So with this, I would like to conclude my particular lecture on sedimentary rock, and I will be meeting you up tomorrow from 4 p.m. onwards with the concept of this. I have concluded the sedimentary rock today, and tomorrow I will meet you up with the concept of metamorphic rocks and concept of folding and faulting. If it is possible, I would like to try to cover on the same day and same time. And with this, I would like to say Bande Mataram, Jai Hind.